If you like this podcast or the previous ones, please consider buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Frankie'sPod. It just goes to help fund the software and the hosting. Hi, welcome back to the podcast. Tonight I'm talking to Davie McIvor. Now, I said that right, didn't I?
Yep.
My writing's terrible. I approached Davie on Facebook and he volunteered to come on the show and tell us about his time in the military. Hi, Dave, how are you doing?
I'm good, Frankie. Thanks, mate. Cheers for having me on.
Again, like I said to everyone, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. Without people like yourself, I wouldn't be able to do it. It's just the normal 5 questions that I ask everybody. It's the same way I start every show. So it's where did you grow up? Why did you join the army? What was it like? Why did you leave? And what have you done since? So if you just want to start off with where you grew up and why you joined the military.
So I grew up in a wee town called Dumbarton, on the west coast of Scotland. More namely a place called Bruce Hill, where it was quite rough and ready. Had to grow up pretty quickly back there, you know. There was myself, my older brother. There was 14 months between us, so you can imagine that was a bit of a nightmare for my mother, who was a single parent. And then there was my little sister and my little brother came along as well, about 6 years between me and them. My auntie stayed across the back phase with my cousins, so we were quite close-knit, you know what I mean? But the area we grew up in was quite rough, quite a lot of drugs in the area, a lot of crime. Wouldn't say we were impoverished or anything like that, but we didn't have everything that maybe kids now have got. As you can imagine, growing up with a brother who's 14 months older than you, we used to fight like cat and dog. He used to always win. I suppose nobody ever beats a big brother. I'll give you a wee story in a bit about how much he used to fucking bully me and shit like that. But it was fun, you know. It was a good area to grow up. It was full of good people. It was 80s and 90s time. Me, I was constantly in trouble from a very young age. I wasn't very academic, so that made me be the class clown. Probably done that to hide the fact that I wasn't very bright, or so we thought. I wasn't very bright back then anyway. So school was a challenge. I didn't last very long in school. I got to primary 7. In Scotland it's different. It's primary 1 to 7 and then you get into high school.
Yeah.
So yeah, in primary school I got to primary 7 and I got asked to leave to go to another school. I'll tell you why in a minute. It's not just asked to leave.
I was just, morning, get out.
Yeah, so I went to another school, and in Scotland it's a bit different. You've got Catholic and Protestant schools, and I was in the Catholic school and I got asked to leave, so I went to Protestant school for a while. Never quite made it there most mornings, to be fair. It wasn't, like I say, it just wasn't school. But eventually the school turned me back after a while. And I managed to stay until first year. But we'll just slightly go back a bit and I'll tell you a few stories about growing up and shit that I was getting up to. It's quite the police knew me quite early on, probably talking 8-year-old. You know, I was running about being a bit of a scoundrel along with everybody else on that estate. So it wasn't just me, but some people might have thought I was a bit of a ringleader of it all, or I was always at the front anyway. Like on the old lamppost, you used to be able to take the door off it. I'd take the door off, pull the lights out at night. One night I fucking cycled a bike into it and smashed it straight in and blew the light up. Idiotic stuff. No, it's idiotic stuff, but it's just stuff that we thought was normal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. I mean, I grew up in quite a working class area, but it wasn't as, it wasn't a rough estate. But I did knock about with a lot of kids around then, like from them estates, and they were like that. And It was the early 80s when I was around about that age. But we never got into masses of trouble and stuff like that. You know, the coppers would give you a clip round the ear and you knew which ones to avoid and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we didn't really, you know, I'm quite lucky that I didn't get into that much bother. I was getting to bother at school.
So,
But you know, I was quite lucky where I grew up in the family and stuff like that.
yeah. So, like, across through us, we stayed on, we'll call it the rough estate. Then Bruce Hill it was, so it was quite a rough estate compared to the one next to it, which was Oxhill. And then there was um, a private school for boys. And we used to go down there, we used to fight with them. It's called the Keel School. We used to go down and fight with them. We used to tell them that their parents didn't love them and that's why they sent them away. You know, and you used to just say that.
Psychological warfare.
Yeah, pretty much, mate. But one of the things that my brother done to me growing up was, remember the old one flank balls you get, you kick it, it goes a mile.
Yeah.
So, like I say, we never had lots, but my ma got as a football, we each got a wee set of darts, and my brother threw a dart in my ball, you know, and it started going down quite slowly, like a slow puncture, and I was crying my eyes out, and I was shouting at him, I'll fix it, mate, don't worry. So he went and he hit up a knife, came in, and it was genius, because he was just supposed to fold a wee bit of the plastic across, and it would have sorted it out. Fucking half my ball. I was gutted, you know what I mean, but it was just funny, and that's one of the things that he used to do. He used to also tell me, see the feast ice cream you get?
Yeah.
He used to tell me the centre of that was poisonous to people who were my age, and he could have it then. You know, so you talk about psychological warfare, that's what that fucker used to do to me, you know what I mean?
I can imagine. I'm the youngest of like 5, with 4 older brothers and an older sister. Sorry, 3 older brothers. Bloody hell, I've imagined an older brother there. And it was a 6-year gap. So yeah, I used to get fucking beat the shit out of them. Off one of them, cheesy. And it was always like, you know, fun fights, and I'd be the goodie and he'd be the baddie. So the baddie wins to begin with. Never used to get round to the point where the goodie would win. So he's fucking battered all around the house off him. Yeah. I'll have to bring it up with him next time I see him, actually.
Mate, I tell my brother all the time when I see him. But yeah, so I was growing up early years, you know, the estate we lived on, it was rough, but it was good people. We all knew each other, you know, so we all kind of looked out for each other as well. And like I say, in primary school, when I got moved to the other school and went back, I wrote a poem in primary 7. They asked us to write a poem about what we were going to do in high school, and I wrote something along the lines of, I don't really give a shit what you're asking me to do here. I don't like this school. I'm not going to like high school, so get it up, use whatever it was I wrote, I can't remember. And at that point, they sort of knew that it wasn't going to work out well for me. And we went on a visit to the high school, and it was literally just across the road. And I walked into the bathroom, and there was loads of people there for other schools, and all the odds for other school. I'm like, right, who wants to fight then? I mean, I'm 5'0" now, so I was probably about 4'2" then. And one boy turned and said, yeah, I will. So us two had a fight. And lo and behold, after a while, us two became really good friends. And the sort of first part of school, do you know what I mean? Because when we got there, us two were the two that were in front of the head teacher when we were there with our primary school. You know, so we were like, you're all right, you, ain't you? And it was this stuff, daft wee boy stuff, but it was fun.
And the other kids like look up to you then, think, oh, you've been in a shit. Wow, look at him.
Yeah. But I knew then that I wasn't going to do well in high school as well. You know, and again, it probably goes back to the fact that I didn't think I wasn't bright. You know what I mean? So I acted up to probably mask that, and I just became a bit of a clown. So when I got to high school, again, it was I knew it wasn't going to last. In between all this as well, I'm getting in a lot of trouble with the place. I'm shoplifting. I'm doing what 8, 9, 10-year-olds done in the 80s and 90s from my area. Do you know what I mean? So I was constantly getting taken home with the police. I was a bit of a tearaway. Let's put it that way. I was the kind of person that people's parents didn't want them hanging around. in some
Do you
cases,
think?
that was...
Sorry to interrupt. Do you think that was partly down to the education system now, and not treating people the way that they should be treated, not encouraging them more, not taking a bit more interest in them? Did they kind of just wash the hands of you?
I think there was a bit of that, but equally, a lot of it was on me because I wasn't interested in learning at all. I know for a fact some of the teachers liked me. They thought I was all right. They thought I had potential, but I just couldn't be asked with it. I didn't like school at all. I didn't.
Fair enough.
I'm totally opposite with my own kids, though. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for me, I wasn't going to do well at it, and I never thought I was. And when I played for a football team, and I can't remember exactly the year, what age I was, but the football team were going on a trip down to Newcastle to play Wallsend. If you like football, you probably heard of Wallsend, quite a famous team with Shearer and that came through. And a couple of the parents went to the coach and said, if he's going talking about me, then our kids aren't going. And to be fair to a couple of guys, I won't name anybody's names, but there's a couple of old boys from up the area I grew up in who said, well, if he's not going talking about myself, then we're not going, and we're going to cancel the whole trip. So there was good people looking out for you because they knew that they wanted you to do well. I'm not sure that they knew you were going to do okay, but they wanted you to do okay.
I mean, for you to hear people saying that about you as well at that age or a younger age, that's going to fucking put a dent in your, in your psyche, in your, your self-worth, more or less.
So, Frankie, I didn't hear about this until probably 15 years later.
Ah, right.
When I spoke to the two old boys in a pub. Maybe even a lot longer than that. I had a chat with these two guys and they were like, yeah, there was people saying that their kids weren't going if you were going. And we said, well, if he's not going, then we're not going, and therefore the whole trip's canned. So they two done me a favour and got me on.
Yeah,
If I'd known
massively,
that then, I would have known people were looking out for me then, do you know what I mean? But you don't really think that. I was just growing up the way I thought I was supposed to. But yeah, so moved into high school. If I'm going too fast, Frank, just tell me to slow down.
No, crack on.
As I moved into high school,
we've got all night, mate.
I was already known because, like I said, I had an older brother who had been there a year previous. I'd been in the fight on the school visit, so I was known to the school before I got there. So my cards were probably already marked in a sense as well.
I know exactly what you mean.
And I brought that on myself. I don't kind of blame the school for that. I blame them for other things, but we'll get into that in a minute. So I must have been about 11 or 12 in first year of high school. 11 I was. And it just wasn't for me. I had loads of friends, I had loads of things going on. Still hated class. And now there was 6 of them to achieve every day. I was like, nah, fuck this. I'm not going to do well here. So again, I got to fucking about all the time and I was going into class. I was being disruptive. All the things you hear about kids now, if they're being this or being that was me, and I openly admit that. But what they've done is I think they turned the shit house way out of it. Because me and my brother were pissing about one day in the playground, as you can imagine. He's got a pen, he's trying to draw on my face, I've got a pen. We're drawing on each other and a big crowd had gathered. So they've seen it, they thought that we were having a fight. And pulled the 2 years in, got my man involved, and they suspended me. Said, but we can't have him here, he's disrupting my older brother. I thought, that's a bit strange. So for there on, I just never really went back. I thought, I'm not going to do this. So within sort of 3 months of high school, I landed in a children's home, a place called Blair Vaddock, down by Fastlane. And what had happened there, I wasn't in school. So what I was doing, I was out and I was getting up to other stuff. So I was out shoplifting, doing whatever. And I'd been arrested a lot by the time I was 11. That sounds really bad, doesn't it? But it was just where we grew up. It was normal for us to do stuff.
So it's just like a product of the environment as opposed to...
Yeah. Which is why now we're all here in the army. People call people who are into crime scumbags and stuff like that. I can't do that because I don't think they are. I think they're a product of their environment. And I took a right turn. Some people didn't, you know what I mean? So I give people the time of day and stuff like that, and I don't think it could have easily been me. You know what I mean? I could have ended up in prison and stuff like that. But I'm sort of digressing a bit. So, let's say I'd spent a lot of time in like 6 hours in the cells and stuff like that. But one day, what had happened, I was out shoplifting with one of my friends. Saying this so casual, and it's just normal that everybody goes shoplifting. At 11-year-old,
people are at the moment, right?
At 11-year-old as well, you know. But so what had happened is I'd got home, and the police came to the door and detained me. They said to my he's been caught shoplifting, blah blah blah. What had actually happened is the mate I was with grassed me up, and they taken me into the cells. And I'd been there many times before, so it didn't really faze me. But as time went on in the day, it felt different. You know, they were talking to me different, things were happening different, and been there a lot longer than 6 hours. And then it must have been about 3 or 4 in the afternoon, like that, right, time to go. And I was thinking, time to go, is my ma here? And she wasn't this time. So they took me in a police car, and they drove me down to the doctors. I'm thinking, fuck it, this is different, this. I don't know what's going on here. Went in, had a medical in the doctors, then I got taken to a children's panel. And it might have been the other way about. It might have been the children's panel, then the doctors. It could have been, I can't remember. But I was going to a children's home. And that was the different part of it. That's why I was getting treated so different throughout the day. But this wee tough guy who thought he was running the show in school, I broke down in tears, you know, I'm getting taken away from my family for the first time.
I mean, that must be fucking terrifying, especially like with no idea of it going to happen.
Yeah, it was horrendous.
Okay.
And it was... I knew people who were in that children's home, you know what I mean? But when it was happening for the first time, I just thought, fucking hell, this is totally different. I was breaking my heart crying. All my family were there. There was loads of people, and I didn't care, you know what I mean? I broke down. But equally, I thought, I need to kind of get it together here, because I know I'm going to a children's home. So I went. They took me to Blair Vaddock, and it's only like maybe 10, 15 miles from where I lived, if that. But I got there, and it's like an old castle, an old, what do you call it, stately home thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know...
Quite imposing, scary.
Yeah, so you look at it, and it's on top of a hill, and I mean, I don't believe in ghosts and stuff like that, but I thought, fuck, this could be haunted, this. You know what I mean? And I know lots of people have horror stories about children's homes in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
But in there, it was totally different. The staff were really good, you know what I mean? But that first week, I didn't settle at all. And I don't know, I felt lost. I felt my family... I was seeing my family every day because they were coming down to see me. But it was being away from them, you know what I mean? It sort of changes something.
Yeah.
And I was there for a week, and the amount of visitors I got in that week, it was unbelievable, you know. It was just loads of people coming to see me. I was getting my fags. At 11-year-old as well, people were bringing me fags. I'm getting all my chocolate. I'm getting a wee bit of money. But the home itself was good. There was good people running it. So I was only there for a week initially. And then they said, right, you can go back out. Hopefully that's a kick up the arse you need. It wasn't. It was... I thought it probably gave me a wee bit more confidence, to be honest with you. So when I went back, I wasn't going to school or anything again, and had a children's panel one night a couple of months after it. The school by this point had refused to take me back. They said that I was too disruptive. So I went to a children's panel, and it was on an evening for some reason. It never normally was. And they said, right, you're going back to Blair Vaddock. we need to get you, we need to get you into an assessment centre. I'll explain what an assessment centre is in a minute. And I basically walked out of there with my mum and I said, I'm not going. And she's like, I know. I was like, I'm going up the road. She's like, here's a bus here. So I pissed off, I went back up the road and I stayed with my uncle that night. Essentially, I was on the run then. You know,
Yeah.
11-year-old, I'm on the run for the authorities. I'm out there. And I spoke to my mum about it the next morning. We agreed that the best thing to do was go there and try and get back into school that way. But like I say, I'd gained confidence the second time I went in there. So I went in, I knew people. I was a bit different in my approach. The first time I was in quite quiet. I was quiet for the whole time I was there. This time I wasn't. This time I was in, I was loud. I was causing aggro for people. I basically just didn't give a shit. So the first sort of 2 nights I was there, me and one other, we barricaded ourselves in a room and just said, if he's wanted, you need to smash the door in, sort of thing. And they managed to talk us down. And I can't recall what night it was, but a couple of days later, on a Saturday, there's not much goes on a Saturday in there unless you're going out on a day trip. I thought, fuck this, I'm going home. And like I say, it wasn't far from where I was to the train station in Helensburgh. So I walked down there and jumped the train and went home. So they're flapping about trying to find out where I am, and I'm sitting in the house, you know what I mean, in Dumbarton with my ma. Again, we agreed the best thing was to go back. And 2 nights after I got back, me and 4 others just blew it for us all because we barricaded in a room. Put the bed up against the door, threw the mattress out the window, hit one of our other mates in the head with the mattress. It was undamaged. And then, fucking bizarrely, somebody popped a lighter out and started trying to set the room up with light, and so the fire brigade came through the door. And again, this time, the 4 of us in the room, this time, we were completely moved out of that children's home, never to go back. And again, like I said, it was a shame for the people there because the staff there were really nice people and all they were trying to do was help us. But we just thought, nah, we wouldn't put it this way, we didn't want to help. So, yeah, so we went to the police station again. This was about 3 a.m. And again, like the first time when I was getting put in a children's home, I knew it was different. Excuse me. I knew it was different, you know what I mean? It was almost as if we were being treated like adults. So the next morning it was down to court. It wasn't even a children's home this time, it was straight to court. They said, right, you're going away to Newfield, which was an assessment centre. When you go to an assessment centre, you'll go on to sort of rules. One is you'll get home at weekends to see your family. The other is that's you're gone until we decide what to do with you. This place was quite imposing. It was called Newfield, and not long before I went, a kid had died in it, you know, and all these stories appear. I don't know how he died, but he died in there. And it had bars on the window, so as soon as you see it, you're a bit thrown with it. And again, I went in there the way I went in the first time. It was, but I think it was probably the shock of it all. I was crying again. I was further away from my family. I couldn't get out this time. So all them little things. But in there, what you do in an assessment centre, they've got like a school attached to it. So you go into school in small groups, 3, 4, maybe 6 at most. You'll do a bit of school work in there and then they'll assess what you're like over a 3-week period. They'll have a review and then they'll decide if you need to do another 3 weeks, or they can say, right, you can go home or you can go to a listee school. So, like a residential school, residential children's home.
Yeah.
For me, the first 3 weeks, I was involved in a couple of fights with people in classes. throwing chairs at each other because we both pissed each other off for some reason. Probably because the two of us were trying to outdumb each other. It's only
I'm kind of like, I kind of know where you're coming from.
yeah.
It was quite similar at school. I mean, I want not to the extreme. Well, sometimes throwing chairs, throwing things at teachers, stuff like that. And I don't know why I was doing it. But it was like what you say was the class fool to gain attention and stuff like that. Really,
I think
looking back, it's stupid. But
yeah, I think if you feel that you're not clever enough, you try and disguise it. At least looking back now, that's the only reason I can have to think about it.
I suppose when you're at that age as well, you don't really understand the consequences. You don't have that, understand the gravity of things that you're doing. You haven't got I suppose the mental responsibility of it. You don't understand you're doing wrong. You don't know the effects it does on other people and stuff like that. You're a kid. You don't understand really.
The time you recognise it is when you're getting dragged away in a police car. And I think because I was getting arrested for such a young age, I was quite desensitised to going to a police station and sitting for 4 or 5 hours in a cell. But when I get taken away to the doctors and then I get taken away to court and then taken to a home, it all it's different, And
yeah,
I don't know. It's just it totally
kind of brings it home to you.
Yeah, it brings it home that you're actually not going home that night, And again, I'd not get any shame. I was 11-year-old, and when I went to Newfield for the assessment centre, I was crying my eyes out again. I thought I fucked it again. That's understandable. Yeah, but you just feel like you fucked it again, and that's it. So, but in there, like the first 3 weeks for me was, again, I wasn't doing well in the school. The small classes weren't working. But again, in there, the staff in there, they were brilliant. That I know they're getting a wage, but equally they were giving their time up to look after kids.
Yeah.
And almost every single night, you were going on a trip, whether it was swimming, ice skating, just out to a park to play football. You were always active, and you were allowed your. But so bizarrely, in there at 11-year-old, I was allowed to smoke, as long as my mother granted permission.
Different times, isn't it?
Yeah. Wow. Which she did because she knew I was going to do it, and I was stressed out, so she let me anyway. I was like, right. So after the first assessment, they said no, I wasn't ready to go back to mainstream school or back home. So I had to do another 3-week assessment, like a remand situation, as they would call it now.
Yeah.
And after the second 3 weeks, I went down for my assessment. I wasn't expecting anything. I was thinking I'm going to get another sort of 3 weeks. And it was agreed there that I would go to a residential school, which I was quite happy about because I had a friend at the one they were sending me to. I wasn't happy that I wasn't getting home to my family, but I was happy where I was going.
Yeah.
So it was called St Philip's, which was in Airdrie. And basically the way that worked was I'd be there 5 nights a week, and then on a Friday I'd get a train down the road, and then on a Sunday I'd get a train back up. But they might have came and picked us up on the bus. I don't remember what they'd done, but basically that was it. And in the classes it was 60 a class, where I use classes loosely because basically you would go, and if you didn't want to be there, you'd just piss off out. And you would just run about the yard. You'd get chased after the staff. They would try and take you back into the class. And we've done that a lot of the time because, again, there was various people in there for various reasons. And probably the number one reason for us all there was we didn't want to do schoolwork.
Yeah.
It didn't sort of resonate with any, as it wasn't. There might have been some clever boys in there, but it didn't suit us. So where the school was, it was just up the back. There was a track down the bottom, and the amount of people just used to piss off down that track all day we done it just because we couldn't be arsed. But what it did give me, it gave me a bit of stability. And again, I'll go back to the people who worked in there were absolutely amazing people. We'd do, on a Monday night, we'd go back on a Sunday. So on a Monday, we would either go swimming, ice skating, go and play football. We'd go down to the boxing club with one of the members of staff in there as well. So it gave you a bit of structure on every Wednesday. So I get quite used to the sports afternoon very early on, probably for about 11 years old. We used to go and play teams for other homes and stuff like that, or we'd go hill walking. But they looked out for you, and sort
Trying
of
to tire you out, that's what they were doing.
Yeah. But I look back on it and I think with people now, the amount of diagnoses that goes on with ADHD and stuff like that, the amount of people that I see now, and my own son's autistic and he's got ADHD, if I think back to then, there was definitely people in there who would be diagnosed today.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, it just wasn't, it just wasn't talked. It wasn't even thought about. I've seen kids in, the school I was in. It was quite a decent school. It was all right. There was some little shits in there, mainly me, to be honest. But there was definitely kids who you would now say are on the spectrum, let's say.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. I don't remember hearing the words ADHD or spectrum or anything until very recently. The last 10, 15 years. Before that, it was like it wasn't really spoke about. It wasn't. I suppose it wasn't recognised.
No, I think you were just naughty, weren't you?
Yeah, you were just a little shit.
And who knows? I don't know. Maybe I would have been diagnosed back then the way I was, but thankfully I wasn't. But but St Philip's, like I say, and it sounds bizarre, but it was good for me. There was a lot of good people there. I went my first sort of trips abroad and stuff like that while I was there.
So how long did you end up staying in there then?
So I was in there from 11 till 16.
Wow.
But it's sort of, what happens is over the years, you start to just go to school there.
Yeah.
So after about 2 years, I started going home on a Friday. I travelled back for school on a Monday, travelled back home on a Tuesday night, back up for Wednesday, and like that for the weeks. But what we done when we were in there, when I was in there, tried to get me back into my old high school. They just refused point blank. So
then that's going to knock your confidence as well, or did you not think of it that way?
I knew they wouldn't take me back. I was getting a taxi. Eventually, I was getting a taxi daily from Dumbarton to Airdrie, which I think was about 29 miles there. So about 60 miles a day, I was getting a taxi. But the school just refused point blank. Like I say, I didn't make a good first impression. I made a lasting impression, but not a good first one. But the home was good for me, and
did it calm you down and stop you getting into trouble?
It didn't really calm me down, but it through the week it gave me focus. I knew I'd be doing something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I was in there, I can't remember what age I was, but I organised a football tournament between the boys in the home and the boys who down Mabbott, down where I lived. So we travelled down and went to a sports barn and we had a football competition. So I could organise stuff as well, and new stuff like that. But while I was in there, I think it was on my first weekend home. We were playing bottle fights, throwing bottles at each other, and one scudded me right in the front of the head, and it cut me open. So I had to go back and explain that I wasn't in a fight or anything. It was I'd fell. So when I said we were in bottle fights with our mates, probably get
you got fucking sectioned.
Yeah, send me to a more secure unit. But
It's
yeah,
like we said earlier, you do things stupid as a kid because you don't understand the consequences or the gravity of what you're doing.
yeah,
You know, it's just childhood. You do daft things like that.
and it's just normal.
Yeah, I mean,
What it was normal.
it just reminded me of something. Then I remember as quite a young kid going to watch the first Star Wars, so like 1977, 78 or where it was, and we came out of the cinema and they were knocking a load of houses down out the back, the few rows out the back of the cinema. And we used to when they're knocking houses down, before like nowadays where they're all boarded up and fences around them, you could go and climb in them and smash the windows and fucking have a laugh, you know what I mean? And we went in and we all decided to get, the strip lights, the fluorescent bulbs, get one of them each and pretend they were lightsabers. And we was fucking smashing them over each other's backs and all sorts. I think back then I was fucking idiots. But it just seemed like a natural thing to do at the time.
Yeah.
And nobody got hurt, No one was, I say no one was hurt, but, no harm, no foul type of thing.
It's just
childish things,
Yeah. But like I say, I had to go back and explain it off as that I fell. Whether believe me or not was a different story. But what they did do was, like I think I mentioned earlier, they took me on my first foreign holiday. Went to France with them. Managed to go 2 years in a row, so it was good. But sort of by the time I was 13, 14, by this time I was starting to be in on the day and then travel home more often.
Yeah.
And I was getting in a lot of fights, especially at weekends, out drinking and stuff like that. And like I said, I'm only 5'5" now, so I was about 4 foot nothing then, but I could look after myself. And I had a bit of a reputation as not somebody that could fight, but wouldn't sort of back down. And what it led to was I ended up in a lot of fights with older people. Guys coming out of the pub trying to pick on me and stuff like that. And I wouldn't stand for it. One night I was fighting with a guy and I had blood all over me, and the bouncer taking me into the pub and he's washing my head. He's like, I'm trying to see where you're bleeding. It was actually coming from the other guy. But this led to something quite serious happening as well. That's why I mentioned it. So I was fighting with all these guys. They're talking mid-20s. I was 14 at the time. And one night, it was around about Christmas time. I don't remember the exact date. I was stood with one of my friends across for the shops, and a guy walked up to me and said, I heard you were fighting with so-and-so last week. I was like, yeah, mate, it's just one of the things. And I thought this was going to be another scrap here. But I felt a punch to my chest. And then I just was like, fuck. And it stabbed me in the chest.
Fucking
hell. I mean? And I remember it because I remember the old Sheffield Wednesday top, blue and white.
Yeah.
I had that top on, and all one of the sort of columns on it was just red. So my friend carried me from where it happened about a mile, and then I was sat on a chair in a chip shop, and I could see it building up outside. All my family were there. People were coming from everywhere. Just there must have been about 50, 60 people there. The CID came in and they said, was this Baba? They said the guy's name. I was like, nah. I knew fine well who it was. I said, no, it wasn't him. Where I grew up as well, you didn't do grassing, you know what I mean? So I went to the hospital and the fucking doctor's got his finger in my chest. He's like, if that's an inch the other way, you're not here. And I was like, oh, okay. But I got stitched up and back out that night. That was harder to sort of explain to the home when I went back. Because they were then thinking, well, what are you up to when you're home for that to happen?
Yeah.
As I said, I don't know who done it. It was one of them things. I knew fine well who done it, and I knew what it was because of as well, but I didn't tell them that. But what that done is it didn't make me sort of calm down any either. It just that probably made me a bit worse because
made you angry.
Yeah, I was constantly after him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was 28, I was 14. And I thought, you fucking coward. And I really wanted to get him back. And that stuck with me for a couple of years. And I seen him a couple of times after it, and he legged it with his mates because I dread to think what might have happened. You know what I mean?
When you think, all right, you come from that environment and in a rough place like that, and people, that shit happens. I mean, it shouldn't happen,
yeah,
but it does, and it happens nowadays. I mean, it's fucking knife crime's fucking prevalent now.
that's through the roof.
But for a fucking 28-year-old to go and fucking assault, threaten to fight, stab a fucking child, which is what you were, is I can't get my head around it.
But
you know what I mean?
Bizarrely, I just thought it was a normal reaction to somebody doing that. Do you know what I mean? Now I know totally different.
Yeah.
But at the time, I thought, well, he's just backing his mates up. But realistically, he was a 28-year-old man and I was a 14-year-old kid.
Yeah. That's fucking... I couldn't get my head around that shit.
Yeah. It didn't sort of quiet me down because I was still out fighting with people, looking for people, trying to get a bit of revenge and stuff like that. And I was 14-year-old. I was probably angry enough at the time. And I was getting a lot of time back for the home as well, so I was down, cutting about, doing what I shouldn't have been doing. Let's put it that way, And that was sort of it to 16, just running about daft with my friends, doing stupid stuff, fighting.
I mean, thinking as well, it must have been hell for your mother.
Yeah,
you doing all this, and the rest. I mean, the rest of your family. Was your brother as bad as you, or was he totally different?
No, he had his moments. But as we were younger, I was probably the one most off the rails.
Yeah.
And everybody would have thought I would end up in jail. That would be everybody's thought. And I had people say to me, "You're not going to do much with your life." I had people asking me to sell drugs and that for them as well, and because with the reputation, people, I don't know, I've never used a weapon in my life, but people thought you'd do that. I just wasn't interested. I'd rather get beat up in a fist fight, you know what I mean? Don't get it wrong. If I'd ever got my hands on the guy that stabbed me at the time, I probably would have. Luckily for me and for him, I never. But yeah, you're right. For my ma, it must have been hell. And again, selfishly, as a kid, I never thought about that. I just thought about me and what I was doing next and what I was going to be getting up to, and nobody else really entered the thought. And
so what pushed you towards the military then?
To get away. It was literally to get away, mate. I never.
So did you have like a light bulb moment, or
yeah?
I know exactly just suddenly went, I've got to get away from here. I want to shit.
Yeah. I was about 16, 17, and I thought I'm going to go away to the army. But it never really happened, so it went on the back burner for a bit. New Year's Day, 1999. I'd been out getting fucked up all weekend, and I was lying in my bed and I just thought, I need to get away. I need to go. I knew the road I was going down. I had some court appearances to go up for. And they weren't for anything major, it was like a couple of breach pieces and it was fighting, but they were starting to gather pace and they were building up.
Yeah.
So New Year's Day, I said, I've had enough of this, I need to go. I spoke to my ma about it. So I was 17 at the time, so I had to speak to her and say, look, I'm going to the army, will you sign the papers? But she's like, yeah. And even then, nobody thought that I was going to do it. Not a single person. Everybody thought, this is just a wee phase that he's going through. And bear in mind, I had no inkling to do it before that. I thought about it. I wanted to be a driver. That's what I wanted to do. I said, I just want to be a driver. But then at that point, I was 17, 18 in April, so I thought, I need to go. I need to get away. So I went down, careers office, went in and I said, look, I want to join up. I've got a couple of court appearances. what can you do for me? And they were like, right, go and speak to your solicitor, get the court, get the charges admonished, whatever, then come back and we'll let you join. So I went, I done that, spoke to my solicitor and I said, look, I'm going to join the army. Can you have a word? I didn't know what they would do. You know what I mean? He had to speak to the judge and say, Mr. McIvor's going to go and join the military. And even then, I don't think they believed it. But they gave me the chance. They said, we don't want to see you here again, so piss off. And so I went back to them, got the charges dropped, went to Edinburgh to do my wee test. And I was very honest with them. You know, they asked me if I'd done like, drugs and stuff like that, and I said, yeah, I had. I wasn't lying about anything. And the major... So when I went to Edinburgh, I didn't even know what a corporal was. I didn't know army structure at all. But I always remember this major. He was an LE looking back. He sat and said, I see this on your record. I'm willing to give you a chance. I was like, okay. I was like, thank you very much. So I went back for Edinburgh. I got my £8. You know, the £8 you get to go head off to the army.
Yeah.
I decided I was going to join the Royal Tank Regiment for no other reason than tanks look cool. And as I said earlier, I wasn't the brightest boy, so I didn't do well on the barb test either. So I got my couple of quid, went on a piss. Like everybody, there's not a person who'll sit in your podcast and tell you didn't go on a piss with that money. That's to buy you shaving foam. No, mate, that's to get
process.
Yeah. So I got that. I got my date. 19th of April 1999 was the start. I never knew about 5 minutes before, so I rocked up a day late. Walked into an auditorium with all the intake there, and I had a pair of fucking brown cargo pants on. I just thought, oh my God. But one thing that stuck with me was the journey there. It was the first time I'd sort of travelled long distance myself.
Just pause.
I rocked up a day late on the Monday, travelled to London and went through the underground for the first time. That was an experience I never wanted to experience again. Let's put it that way. It was horrendous. I got to training, CMSR. Again, I was rubbish. I didn't want to be there. I wanted to go, but when I got there, I didn't want to be there. People were shouting, yes, corporal, no corporal, and I didn't even understand what they were saying. Didn't know what a corporal was, didn't know what a lance corporal, I didn't know the rank structure, I knew nothing. So ultimately, I'd done that 3 weeks, and I got back squadded. So I went back 2 weeks, I think it was.
So how did you handle the discipline? That you were all of a sudden you were thrown into the massive discipline.
Well, initially I just said yes or no, sir, but I found it all right. But it's because I don't know. It was a shock again. I felt like didn't know much. I didn't eat for 3 or 4 days because I just didn't know. I didn't go to the cookhouse. I didn't do anything. I just thought, don't really want to be here. Although it's your choice. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when I went back the 2 weeks, I moved into like a smaller group again, and I started to pick it up. And I always remember a phone call to my cousin. I said, because after like 5 weeks, I think you could buy yourself out. And I said, I'm leaving, I've had enough. And he said, you've not even fucking tried it yet. So you've only been there a couple of weeks. So get your head done and see what you can do. And then I done that. And I started to pick it up. I got really fit. I started picking up all the drills. I just started learning better.
Yeah.
And I kicked on. And then training became fun rather than... And I actually learnt the rank structure, you know what I mean? But it became fun then, do you know what I mean? And I enjoyed it.
So how did your instructors treat you when you were going through this bad phase and having to be back squadron and stuff?
I don't think they really gave a fuck. It's like, you were just a number to them. You know, I always remember they saying that if I train one person and they pass, then I've done my job. you know, and I don't think that they really cared. But what did happen is when I went to my other troop and I seen them all again, the sort of, I don't know, they turned a bit of a shine to me. It must have been a bit of, yeah, we've done the right thing with this lad. Do you know what I mean? But it was probably the best thing that they could have done, because I was going to struggle with the troop that I was with. So they put me back a couple of weeks, and then I kicked on after that. Do you know what I mean? And I done okay. I've heard a few people say it before. I was up for best improved, which just means you were shit when you got up there.
With you.
Do you know what I mean? But
it's
again,
it's the award you don't really want, isn't it?
Yeah. But it was, for me, it was just, you know, it was progress.
Yeah.
So I'd done all right there. I said I started off quite slowly, but I got through it. And I went to Bovington for phase 2. Bovie was quite long for me, and it wasn't down to failing courses. And I had dermatitis on my fingers, and it really flared up. So I passed all my tank training, and then it all flared up. So I spent another 3 months there, trying to figure out what was wrong with me. I was going to, I think it was Aldershot, I was going to and getting the stuff on it back to see what was flaring up. Yeah, so essentially...
Don't say you're allergic to tanks.
No, a wee bit of metal. So what had happened, I'd passed all my courses. Then I had pretty much 3 months at home. So it was one of them, I was travelling up, travelling back down for appointments. So I'd passed out, but I hadn't actually got to my unit yet. So I had 3 months turning into a civvy again.
That's dangerous.
Oh, it wasn't good. But what I did do is I kept my fitness up. I kept away from the shit that I was doing previously. I was drinking a lot, but I was
did the guys you knew at home and stuff like that, did they try and drag you back into it?
No.
You didn't get the chance?
They knew that I wouldn't do it anymore. And to be fair to them, I'd grown up with a lot of them. And they wouldn't try and sort of... I'm not going to say a dream, because it wasn't a dream. They wouldn't try and kill my chances off by offering me it, and do you know what I mean? And like I say, back where I grew up, it was good, solid people. They knew the score. That if somebody was going to go and do well, they wanted that person to go and do well.
Yeah.
And it's the same for them. I don't talk to a lot of them now, but that's for other reasons. But I'd never walk past somebody in the street who I got on good terms with, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Bovie was a bit of a long slog for me. I think it was like 9 months in total.
I've got to ask, what did you think about when you first got on a tank, and got on a chally? Did you find it exciting? Did you find it? Because I've spoken to another guy who was in the, I forgot what he was in. Bloody hell! I think he must have been. I think he was 2 RTR or 3 RTR. I can't remember. And he, when he turned up, he was from Bristol. And when he turned up with Bovie, he was just like, fucking, he was in awe of these things. You know what I mean? He loved them. And I was artillery, so I started off on Abbott's. If anyone calls it a tank, it's not a fucking gun. And then we moved on later on the AS90s. Well, we went down to, we were on FH70 at the time. So it's like a field howitzer.
Yeah.
And we were on our practice camp and went to Castle Martin to fire from there. And I remember us rocking up there and setting up the guns for direct fire. And there was a load of challies next to us. I mean, when I joined the army, it wasn't challies. I've seen them coming in. We had the old things before that with chieftains, weren't it?
Chieftain, yeah.
Yeah, we had them. They're fucking horrible. So all these challies were lined up. We pulled up, set the guns up, and they're looking at us laughing, going, what the fuck's their pea shooters? We've got tanks. So we were going, I was like, fuck me, it's a chally. That's fucking great, that is. And then we fired our guns direct fire with charged super. They all shit themselves because we're quite loud. Where tanks aren't as loud as artillery. But I was like, I've always liked tanks. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a weird thing. I don't know why I didn't. I was trying to join the Air Corps, never mind the artillery. So I didn't give the fucking tankies a thought until years later. But I've always been, I wouldn't say fascinated by tanks, but I kind of am a little bit as well. So how did you feel when you seen them, or when you got to get your hands on one time?
It's a bit strange, mate, because the first thing that we done was we learnt how to drive on a 432 to get your track licence.
Yeah.
So you got a tiny bit of exposure to armour and track. But when you're driving along that and you see a Charlie driving by, you're like, fucking hell, it's the Goldfish Bowl, so it's not like got a turret on it at this point.
Yeah.
But for me, you had to learn all the mechanics in it. And again, I'm not the fucking brightest. So I'm learning flows of an engine. I'm just like, what the fuck? And I'll give you a crack. And this is how my mind wanders. I remember we were on the back decks and we're learning something, right? And I remember this as clear as day. And we're talking 23 years ago. And I'm looking up at the sky and there's a fighter jet flying over. And I'm thinking, Top Gun when he gives the bird. That's what I'm thinking. And he's like, they do the old pause pounds question.
Yeah.
It was my turn for a question. I'm like, what? So I struggled with that part of it. But the tank itself, it's amazing because you're going to get into a massive piece of machinery that you're going to be driving, and everybody I speak to always says, did you drive the tank? And that's the baseline. You learn that first before anything else. They don't ask if you commanded it, if you gunned it. It's have you ever fucking drove a tank, mate? Well, yeah.
No, I didn't realise until I spoke to the other guy that's like the first job on the crew.
Yeah,
that you end up being the driver. I mean, in the artillery, that wasn't the case. You were hunting ammo, and then you might be lucky enough to become the driver or end up being the layer. But you didn't start off like right. The sprog would never be right. The responsibility of driving the fucking gun type of thing. I didn't realise that happened within your lot.
It is a big responsibility for the driver. The commander's obviously got the most because he's doing a million things.
Yeah.
But driving it, you lay back and you're steering towers there. You're a lot of time for a lot of sleep, to be fair. But in training, you learn it without the turret on. So when I first got to Warminster was my first posting from Davie.
Yeah.
And the first time driving with a turret on it, that blew my mind. That was scary, because all of a sudden you've got
this big fucking metal thing above your head.
Above your head, and it's swinging about, and if you're driving opened up, and you'll know the old trick they used to do on the washdown, they fucking drive along, slam the brakes on, all the water comes over the back of you. So when you see the gun for the first time, the turret, that's where it strikes you that, fucking hell, this is something. And then even more so when you're inside it firing. So if you're sitting in that driver's cabin, that's the first time you're in it, the ground just shakes round about you.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty amazing piece of equipment, do you know what I mean?
So what was it like turning up at the regiment then?
So my first day, I got the old trick. This guy's going to slap you about, and then the seasoned Biff turns up. He's like, right, come on down to your room. But they'd been expecting me for months, but obviously because of my fingers, I wasn't able. It was
that's a trick I used to do.
All my boxes and all that were there. So by the time I got there, they'd been expecting me. I got on alright initially. I'd been there 2 weeks, and there's a lot of Scottish guys in the unit, do you know what I mean? So that kind of helped, and I could play football a bit as well, and that helped. But the first sort of couple of weeks there, my troop sergeant at the time said, "Come and parachuting." I was like, "I'm not. I've never been on an aeroplane." I was like, "I'm not doing it." But it made me go, and I got there, and I went up the plane and said, "I'm not jumping." I got down I can't remember what you call them, the course walk came on. He said, "When did you know you were going to jump?" I was like, 2 weeks ago. He's like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, I didn't want to come." I was like, "Honestly, I genuinely didn't want to do it." But I got on all right. I was doing well, but even then, I had the side of me that always managed to fuck it up somehow. You know, I went to a wedding and just didn't come back. I stayed up the road for a couple of days. The boys who turned me up the road, they were phoning me. Like, we're at Carlisle, we'll turn around and come and pick you up. I was like, I'm not coming back. So a couple of days on the Monday, gets a phone call and it's the squad sergeant major. So I'm looking for a trooper McIvor. Nah, mate, this is his brother. He's at the shop now. It's like, can you tell him he's got his ass back here? So even then, when I was doing all right, I still had that moment in me where I could still fuck it up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I ended up calling because of going there. Well,
yeah. So, like I say, it was a couple of days.
That was 16th month.
Yeah. But being a trooper, I loved it.
Yeah.
I got in a hell of a lot of shit. You know, I almost had an appointment with a sergeant major on a Monday morning, every Monday.
Yeah.
There was just some daft stuff. Like, we were coming back one Sunday and we stopped at Glasgow to watch the Celtic Rangers game. We got on the train, we had a buckfast, we had our cans, whatever we had. One of the boys cut his wrist unintentionally. So he got off the train at Birmingham. We said, we can do one or two things here. We turned up to the hospital, got him stitched up, and we said, we can go back to camp tonight, into work tomorrow, or we can get in the train and go to Blackpool tomorrow. We were in Blackpool in the morning.
Okay, now.
You know what I mean? There was 5 days and we were a good group of boys and we just had a laugh. And not the punishment for shit like that would be go back and clean the tank park and you'd be scoosing it on a Sunday with a hangover or whatever.
Yeah.
One of the best ones was I'll tell you this story, right? It's quite funny. We came back one Sunday night and I slept in Monday morning. So I walked out and we were in short sleeve order. I walked out in the morning and I said, one of my mates walking out, I was like, "Where are you going?" He's like, "I'm late." I was like, "Me too, mate." I was like, "I'm going to go back to my bed though." And he's like, "No, I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to fucking get up." I was like, "I'm just going to go back in." So what I done, went in, I rolled my sleeve up, I gave myself a carpet burn in the arm, I rubbed my head on the floor, gave myself a carpet burn, lay down with a pillow on the floor watching Charlie's Angels. And then I heard the door opening. I was like, right, fucking pillow up. Conked. Door goes, Davie. And I didn't answer, so he opens the door and I looks up and it's a Troop Lance Corporal. He's like, "What the fuck, mate? What you doing?" I was like, "Mate, I must have fainted." So we went up and I went to the Sergeant Major and he's like, "What the fuck's going on?" I was like, I must have fainted. He's like, "Right, do you want to go to the doctor or do you want to go to work?" I was like, I'll go to work. He's like, "Right, get to fucking work." And I seen my pal later that day. He get charged 50 quid for being late. I got away with it. I was like, oh god. And it was just daft stuff like that as a trooper, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I decided after sort of 2 and a bit years I was going to leave after the 3. And then I got an opportunity to go to Ireland with the Green Howards back then. And I went with them for 6 months. And that was really good as well. I managed to get myself charged while I was there with them.
So was that your first tour then?
Yeah. So that was my first one. And that was a massive eye-opener for me.
Did that change your outlook on everything?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I remember you're going on patrol properly, you know, and I still had the daft kid in me, do you know what I mean? But some things happened on that tour. Nothing bad, by the way. We weren't in contact or anything, but some things people said to you and stuff like that, I woke up a bit to it, you know, I was like, oh, it's real. people actually hate us some places we go. And it was when I was there, it was 9/11 had just happened as well. So it was sort of 2002, I think I was there. And 9/11 had just happened before we went, or just as I came back. It was when we were there, because somebody told us that the troops were going to Afghan. But I got on all right with the infantry boys. You know, I mean, a couple of them asked me to stay. But I didn't fancy staying. I wanted to go back to RTR. I really enjoyed RTR, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd made a bit of a name for myself, and some good, some bad. But for the most part, I was known as a good lad who would do the job. I might get a bit of shit, or a lot of shit, but I could do my job, do you know what I mean? And then we come
you
back.
do get a lot of guys like that. I mean, you know, I'd say that I'd call them field soldiers, more or less. You know, they're really good on exercise, they're good on the field. They put them in camp and they suffer. They end up in shit. You know,
I was scruffy.
it's like doing the job it's in your head. You know, and it makes you level. Boredom is a killer.
Yeah,
you know.
I was scruffy as fuck as well. I didn't enjoy that side of it. But came back, and RTR, I don't know if you know, RTR used to do the NBC regiment as well.
Yeah.
So when I
what was the vehicle? The Fox?
The Fuchs, yeah.
Yeah.
Fuchs and PBDS, IBDS and stuff like that. So when I came back, I had to do my gunners course. And I think the Green Goddesses were out as well at the time.
Yeah.
So a lot of the regiment about to do that, and I was on my gunners course by this point. Fucking hell, that's made me think of something. So RTR and the association do a cenotaph a week after Remembrance in London.
Yeah.
We went to that, and me and my best mate, we were in London at 3 o'clock in the morning on the Sunday, getting into Monday, so it would have been the Monday morning. And we were just pissed. We get lost in the underground, not knowing that there's an underground. So there's more than one level. So you're fucking going in circles, mate. But we managed to get back in time for work. And on the parade the next morning, the sergeant majors like that, these two fuckers in London at 3 o'clock this morning can make it back. Everybody can do it. Well done. We're like, oh, okay. Cool. So we got away with that, man. But yeah, so I was then asking to move up to Hornington, where the Joint NBC Regiment were, because they were definitely deploying. I moved up there just after the summer 2002, I think it would have been. And I went into like a specialist monitoring team, and we were basically had all the equipment to go and test missiles and shit like that to see if there was any WMDs.
Yeah.
So
you went straight on Optelic then?
Yeah, so straight on Optelic. And I mean, again, it's a level up to what I'd done previously. We went across the border with 5 rounds of ammunition. You know, it was a shit show really when you think about it. But being young, you don't really think that much about it. You know, you don't think I'm going to go to this border, I'm going to get in contact. Not as a tanky, doing NBC stuff. Maybe the paras and the infantry boys and the Marines, maybe they were that sort of mentality. But I had 5 rounds of ammunition. I had 1 plate. I never thought anything of it. You know, with hindsight, I'd been sitting like, right, there's something seriously fucking wrong here.
Yeah, we definitely didn't have the kit, did we?
No, not at all, mate.
No.
It was just a shit show. It just wasn't. I mean, prime example is we were there as NBC. I wasn't a specialist by any stretch of the imagination, but we were leagued up, and a girl come over with a respirator, and she said to my boss at the time, "Use NBC a lot." He's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Is this fitted properly?" Put a respirator on, it just dropped right down her face. Thinking, what the fuck, God? But you know, Telic one for everybody. I think it was. I mean, I remember driving down to Schreiber for ice cream in a single vehicle move. So it was quite was deception, I think, for everyone, because we all just thought this is nice and easy. And then as the telex went on, obviously it became a
It
lot
got
more
worse and
kinetic,
worse.
and it got worse.
I mean, the way I see, I mean, I was on Telic as well with 3 Hour Chair, and the way I see it is, we were doing our job in war, doing a war fighting role, and I loved it. We were, I was doing recce for the battery, and we were like quite forward, and getting left on our own in the middle of a fucking field, all sorts of weird shit happening. Watching tank battles and stuff like that. Getting caught up with the Yanks, and it was interesting. And then all of a sudden it was over. It was like, oh fuck me, was that it? And then you just reminded me then about a single vehicle move. We ended up on the Shiver Log base with the vehicles, and the battery got split, and half of them got sent down to Alpha to patrol the area, and the other half of us stayed to do vehicle husbandry, get the vehicles ready to take back and stuff like that. And then this message came over that as from tomorrow we're dry, and we thought, well, we haven't had a fucking beer yet anyway. So we took the opportunity that one of the lads knew there was a fucking off license by Basra Palace, not far from there. So me and this lad jumped in a fucking Rover, got a load of money off everyone, and shot down there on our own, bought beer, and everyone was happy to see us. They were all like waving and stuff like that. I mean, a weird thing happened while we were there. He went in the shop to get the beer. I was sat in the vehicle, and somebody drove into the back of us, and I thought, shit, they're going to get us. You know what I mean? So I jumped out, ready to cock my weapon and that. And it turned out it was a drunk driver. So the locals dragged him out of the car, beat the shit out of him, and helped us load beer into the back of the Land Rover, and off we went. I mean, fucking hell, like a month, and even a couple of weeks after that, there was no way you'd have been able to do that.
Yeah.
It just fucking turned. It changed. Like I said, I've said it many times. People were glad to see us when we first went in there.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it just almost overnight, it changed.
Yeah.
The fucking the baddies came down from the north or whatever, whatever the excuse it was, whether it was the wrong people who were locked up in the prisons and this, that, and the other. The government was managed incorrectly by the Americans because they took over everything. I can't say what went wrong.
Yeah.
But shit went wrong.
Oh, massively.
And it caused fucking awful. It caused what came, which was fucking awful. Loss of life on both sides.
Yeah.
And everything like that. But I enjoy. I know it's a weird thing to say is that I enjoyed Optelic.
Yeah.
I've seen it. It was the pinnacle of my career. I was in the first Gulf War and the second Gulf War, so I was like quite chuffed that I had a double whammy.
Yeah, it's like you say, it's one of them. I enjoyed it, but I don't know. It was a strange situation. I think I came home around about the April, I think.
Yeah.
But it was maybe a bit longer. I can't remember. But yeah, Telic for me, it was a bit of a no show. But I wasn't on tanks. I was doing the CVRN role. And then when I came back to the UK, and I sort of stayed in that role for a while. And then I went back to Warminster, and I betrayed the tanks because I went to recce within the regiment. I went done CVRT commanders rather than tank.
Yeah.
And I sort of stayed there. I was in Warminster for a couple of years. And then the opportunity came up to go to Australia on long look. So I went there for the best part of 3 or 4 months. And if you know squaddies that have been on long look, mate, they're all moving to Australia. I'm not coming home. I'm going to join the Aussie Army. I'm surprised it's not full of thousands of Brits who's been on long look. But that never happened. So when I came back to Warminster, I decided I was going to leave again. So I'd done maybe 6-7 years by this point. And the reason for leaving was I wasn't getting an opportunity to go to Afghan. And I was going to go and do a CP. And my thought process, rightly or wrongly, was I should not be in a position where I don't go to Afghan while I'm serving during these periods. Nothing makes me special that I don't need to go. So I decided that I was going to leave. And I spoke to the RCMO and the CEO about it. They said, stay in, something might happen soon. and before I knew it, I was going on up to like 13. So I went on to like 13, and again, it was a no-show because everything had settled down. Basically, they were just packing up the corp at that point. But again, for me, it was good experience because I was a young commander. You know what I mean? So I had my own vehicle and stuff like that, and I was commanding a section over there. So it was good experience for me. But while there, I found out the regiment were deploying on Herrick the following year. So I said to the CO in front of everybody, I said, he obviously asked any questions, and I'm like, yeah, can I go to Herrick next year, Colonel? And he's like, I was like, so he's like, yeah. I managed to get on Herrick the following year. And so that was back-to-back tours. So you know yourself, that's 2 years. You get your 6 month build up, then you get your tour. So it's pretty much 2 years back-to-back for me, both Christmas tours. And we went out to Afghan just after the done Panther's Claw. So the lads before us had it really, really kinetic. Do you know what I mean? They had a tough time. And it was 2 RTR handed over to 1 RTR as well.
Was with tanks, or was it on the ground?
So it was on Vikings.
Yeah, Vikings.
Yeah.
I never went to Herrick, so.
So we couldn't. The tanks, it didn't suit the ground.
Yeah.
The ground didn't suit the tanks. Sorry. So we were on Vikings. Vikings are the old BVs, you know what they're, don't you? So it's the old BV bulked out. 2 RTR lost a couple of lads. They had a really tough time. And we were following them. So we were lucky. We didn't lose any in our tour. We had some serious injuries. But thankfully we never lost anyone.
And this was down to mine strikes?
Yeah. But it's like, that tour for me, obviously, I had my first contact. I don't know, I always wondered how I would feel. And actually, I felt pretty confident. You know, didn't feel...
That's the training you've been given.
Yeah, I didn't feel that I was scared after it or anything. I just thought, you know what, this is what we're here for. If we get in contact, we get in contact.
Yeah, it's the training, it's the adrenaline, it's all sorts of, you know.
And bizarrely, it's like, everybody always tells you, the first thing you'll do is you'll piss yourself laughing. And it's exactly what I've done. You know what I mean? I remember we went up, one of the first stops, I was going up to Sang, and there was an American call sign in front of me. And he's went on a pressure plate, and he blew up in front of me. Luckily, the guy was okay, but he had a PRR on because we had never had comms with him. He had a PRR ad when I'm trying to talk to him. It was a bit comical. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fucking hell. Luckily, he was okay. But yeah, it was 6 months. It was a good tour. As a young commander, I learned a lot. When I came back from it, I probably come back with some issues that I didn't really address properly. But at the time, you just don't think about it. I was just a young lad. I was enjoying life. I'd done 2 tours back to back. I'd done one Afghan as a section commander. Now, while I say I didn't really want to be in the army when I joined, yeah, I wanted to go to Afghan.
Yeah.
And I managed to tick that off then, do you know what I mean? And that was a big thing for me. So I felt like if I'm in the army in this period, I had to do it. So when I went back, they offered me a posting down to Davie to teach people how to drive tanks and CVRTs. I turned it down. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to get away completely for the regiment, just for a couple of years to try and get my head straight and stuff like that. I ended up in Inverness, teaching cadets for a couple of years.
That's not a bad gig, is it?
That was brilliant. I got married while I was up there as well, but it was a good settling in period while married, and it was teaching the kids. you realise how switched on these kids are. You know, they don't miss a beat, and that their instructional ability, their field craft, everything about them is absolutely spot on. They learn so much. and I done that for sort of 3 years.
Can I just ask you a question about that? So, going back to you as a kid, being a little shit, and then all of a sudden you're like more or less being a teacher with the cadets, really, Do you think your upbringing helped you teach them?
100%.
I know that sounds a bit disjointed, but
100%.
yeah,
Because if I could see a kid wasn't learning, I would give him a bit of time.
yeah,
I'd teach him a different way than I was teaching other kids. Bloody hell, mate, I tell you, a Canadian speaking French kid, no, sorry, a French speaking Canadian kid on a range had him firing SA-80. Do you know what I mean? I got a joke trying to teach him. So I'd done that, but yeah, it did. Because if I could see a kid was struggling with something, I would know that they're not struggling because of shit.
yeah.
They're struggling because you teach them differently. So I
If
think,
they've accomplished something, that's going to give you a sense of worth, I suppose. Really,
yeah,
a sense of accomplishment
yeah,
yourself.
yeah. So my background's done a lot for me in terms of that, and
Yeah,
if I see kids struggling, I'll try and help them as best I can. You know what I mean? And I think with that, when I see kids that when they weren't picking up the weapon lessons properly, I'd give them an extra 5-10 minutes, just one on one, and show them what they were doing wrong and how they could. But one kid was really struggling with a functions test. I said, just talk it as you're doing it, because you know it. Like, just talk as you're doing it. Tell yourself what stage you're at, and he managed to do it. You know what I mean? And then he was whispering into himself rather than talking out loud to people. So that was just one way of showing them how to do it. You know.
and
But
sometimes that's all a kid needs.
yeah,
Just needs a little
definitely.
out their hand.
Yeah,
Some kids need more, but
I loved the 3 years there. It was really enjoyable. We had a good time.
So what was it like getting back to the regiment after that? Because you've been out of the promotion group as well, haven't
Yeah.
you? Really, you've
So
been out of sight, out of mind.
yeah. So when I came back, promotion for me was never a big thing. But
Yeah,
when they told me I was going to Inverness instead of Bovey, they told me it would career fill me. I said I don't
yeah,
care. It was never a massive thing for me. But going back, it was a bit strange because we just amalgamated 1 and 2 RTR, and I didn't know where my place was. So I went to Warminster as part of the CBRN squadron. But then from there, they told me I was going to Tidworth. The CMO, I had an interview with the CMO, and bloody hell, he didn't even know my name. Just laughed, said it's all right. He's like, I've mixed you up with somebody else. Like, it's fine. I know where I stand. But
yeah,
when I get back, I done all right. I done okay. I helped close down the squadron, and then I get posted back to Tidworth quite shortly after on promotion. I went to Cyclops Squadron, and we went to Canada and stuff like that. It was funny. I've got a really irrational fear of birds, and I seen a pigeon hit a kid in the face once, and it's just I try and steer clear. But the fucking sergeant major found out about it and started putting droppings all over my turret. So birds fucking flying down at me all the time. I was like, yeah. But I mean, I got back. I done all right. I promoted to staffy,
yeah,
and then the year later, after we went to Canada and Battis, went to Badger Squadron, and this is where things totally take a change for all the fucking about to really serious. 2017 it was. You probably heard about a tank explosion at Castle Martin.
yeah,
So I was one of the first responders, and I won't talk for everybody because everybody's got their own issues on that day. Do you know what I mean? And it fucked a lot of people up. Obviously, we lost 2 young lads, which wasn't nice. But being a first responder, I knew for the moment it happened that my life had changed. And I probably knew that for everybody else on the range that day. It was a strange one because the things I thought about, but I looked inside, I knew it was bad. And then afterwards, I started thinking other things, like I was moving forward to an unknown state of a vehicle. Never gave my kids or my wife a single thought. Just thought, fuck it, I'm going to try and help here. So that plays with your mind a bit, and it sort of messed me up for a bit. But what I will say about that day is every single person from top to bottom tried their hardest to help. And even the guys who couldn't, you know, you've got to control it as well. The guys who were asked to step to the side, they were then bringing water. You know, so everybody chipped in that day. And I know a lot of people have got issues since then as well, you know, myself included. But what I done was I buried my head in the sand.
Like a lot of people do.
I decided I would take a different route with it. I was good friends with the RSM at the time, and they said, we'll get you trimmed. I don't want it. So we'll get the lads sorted, and then I'll deal with my shit later. Again, not thinking how messed up I was going to be. He said, I'll get somebody else in to do it. And I said, I don't want it. I said, just leave it. I'll be fine. But sure as fuck, for the 18 months after it, I was literally just drinking. When I was trying to sleep, all I seen was that incident. So I just decided that I would drink and then I'd pass it easier. It got to a point where I was on about 4 hours sleep a night down at the barracks, really struggling with everything. But going into work, getting my job done, not having any problems at work, refusing to see doctors, refusing to do anything, just going to work, getting drunk, going to work, getting drunk, coming home at the weekend, repeat the week after. And it came to a head probably a year or so after, a year to 18 months after. I got really drunk one night and I just fucking started having a panic attack. And I don't know, it was weird. You know, I didn't know the feeling. It was nothing that I'd ever felt before when I went to the home or when anything like that was happening. I just thought, I need to do something about it now.
I mean, it's the panic attack. I mean, that's, you know, what we spoke about before we started doing this. That's what spared me. That's what happened to me. I had an anxiety stroke panic attack, and for me, it's the scariest thing that's ever happened to me in my life. I thought I was going to fucking die.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
Nah, it's not nice, is it? And
no.
For me, obviously I didn't know what was happening at the time, but I knew how it had happened. I knew the reasons behind it. I knew the minute I shut my eyes, I could see events I didn't want to see. I'd often think about, why did I not think about my kids and my wife when I was doing whatever I was doing? But yeah, so I decided I'm going to go and see a doctor. All the way through this time, I'd see the doctor from time to time, but not an appointment, just say hello to her when I'd seen her. And I went, sent me to DCMH, and I'll be honest, I didn't rate DCMH at all. Some people might. I didn't. I thought they were overloaded with cases and they struggled to understand everybody's needs. One of the questions I get asked every single time I went was, how do you feel seeing tanks? Well, I work on a tank park. I see tanks every single day. And I couldn't really answer the question. And it was everything. I ended up doing high intensity therapy. I'd done 18 sessions of that. And the girl said to me after 14, she's like, I'm really struggling, I don't know what to do. You're not opening up. Bear in mind, with therapies, you go right back to the very beginning. So I think she was wondering why I hadn't been in therapy fucking way before that anyway. And she said I was struggling with it, but what she'd done, I think it was on the 14th session, I think it was, she opened up Google Maps and she went to the scene I pretty much just broke them trying to explain to her that day. And that sort of helped me a bit. And after 18 sessions, there's things that will happen where you just fucking zone it, you know, and I still, to this day, I mean, as early as this weekend, just sitting, going into my own fucking space and thinking, you don't know why, but you can snap out of it for a couple of hours, but then you're going back into it, you know, and it happens. But so going back to that, I had the therapy. They offered me sleeping tablets. So I refused to take anything, and it wasn't bravado. I had a fear that if I take a sleeping tablet and something happened at home or something, I wouldn't wake up. You know, and I done that, and luckily enough, I still continued on with my career. You know what I mean? I picked up WO2. Went into.
I was going to ask that. I was going to say, how did the regiment treat you?
Amazing.
Yeah,
Absolutely amazing. There wasn't a dip in my performance or anything. That was a strange thing, and I think that's why it kind of went unnoticed. It didn't go unnoticed as such, but people knew I was having issues, but I was still performing my job. You know.
because I mean, remember, I'm a fair bit older, and
Yeah.
the older army, let's say. When people were struggling then, you didn't fucking know,
Yeah.
you know, and you just thought they were fucking loopy, and you avoided them.
Yeah.
You know, and it's guilty saying it now, but I've seen kids who are thinking back now who were suffering. They didn't know they were suffering. We didn't know they were suffering, but you kind of like avoided them. You know, these were especially when they were got out on a piss, they'd fucking snap.
Yeah.
You know, and you kind of just like stepped to one side, ignored what they were doing, and washed your hands of it. And it wasn't, you know, and like I say, now you feel guilty about stuff like that, but you didn't know then. People didn't talk about it. People weren't open. You know, if someone had gone to see, you know, the psychiatrist or therapy or anything like that, they were almost fucking blacklisted. You know, and that's not just from the guys. Their career could be fucking really, really, you know, affected by it.
The thing with RTR is because it's a regiment that stays together for we go through our careers as one. So we're all, a lot of us are friends as well. You know, so that there was support there. But the regiment were absolutely amazing. Was always, to be fair. Yeah. Let's say
I've seen people, you know, the regiments. I mean, we were the same in the artillery. We'd stay unless you got posted to another regiment. You'd stay with that regiment forever.
Yeah.
You know, you'd arms plot with them and stuff like that. But I have seen, especially like with some of the jobs that I was in, the way literally people were brushed to one side because it was easier than dealing with them, if you know what I mean. You know, and I think in them days we were all guilty of that.
Yeah.
You know, but it's because people didn't talk. You know, I mean, like I've done tours where I've come back and you've gone straight home, or you've gone straight back to work for a couple of weeks before you got your leave after a tour and stuff like that. And you don't have that time to, you know, decompress, to relax, you know, to decompress. And I never got to in my time, never went through the old Cyprus thing where they decompress there. And I've spoken to a lot of people who said that was a fucking waste of time. It was either not done right or not long enough. Just you fucking put in there a load of beer, fucking go and have a fight.
Piss up, mate.
Excuse me.
No, it was a piss up. But in terms of the regiment, they were brilliant. Was, you know, I picked up WO2 the year after, and I still performed. People knew I was struggling, but they looked after me as well. You know what I mean? I would never have a bad word to say about them. But equally for me, it was a lot of the time I just wanted to make sure the other lads were all right as well. You know what I mean? But I served till 21, so I'd done my 22 years in 21. Like a fucking I left COVID time.
Well, fucking hell.
Just after COVID.
Yeah.
But I was quite lucky when I left because, well, on the last day, they came up, I had the squadron parade and did a couple of people reading stuff out, and I tried to speak and I sort of blubbered a wee bit and nearly started crying and said, "No, I'm not doing it," and walked away. But yeah, I got out and I found that I got right into a civvy job. I done all right getting the job.
Yeah.
I was doing health and safety, and I'd done it for a couple of months, and then an FTRS job came available, full-time reservists.
Yeah.
So I put my application in, I got that, thankfully. I was with the RLC out in Bootle. I mean, FTRS is a really good soft landing. So it is.
Yeah.
And the reserves as a whole, it's a good soft landing. And I'd done that. But one of the things that happened while I was there, bizarrely, is I went on a course. The CNO course you do, like the notification officer.
Oh, yeah.
So I was on that course, right? And being diagnosed with PTSD, I probably shouldn't have been on the course. But
No.
I went on it, and the lady taking the course, she didn't have a clue who I was. I didn't have a clue who she was. But she was telling us a great example of how the system worked. And the great example she told was the Castle Martin incident.
Fucking hell.
So I was sat there, and as soon as she mentioned it, I knew straight away, and I went completely quiet, waited for a break, and I walked up and I said, "Look, it is a great example," as that, but unfortunately, I was there that day. I seen it. I can't be in this course anymore. She wasn't to know. I was wearing an RLC cap badge by now, and I broke down again after that for a bit, and it was weird. And what that done was that made me realise that there will always be something that can give you a kick up the arse when you're not expecting it. So I've done that for a couple of years, and then I left that last year. So I've had 2 jobs since. Luckily, the job I'm in now, I'm doing okay. I like it. And as
you can't badmouth it. They might watch this.
No, I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. It's quite good. And as you know, I set up my wee podcast about a year ago as well. Just trying to get people on to shoot the shit, have a chat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's good for me just to sit and listen to people and try and give a bit of advice.
Yeah, and exactly, as we spoke about before, and it's been exactly the same for me. And I'll put a link. You've sent us a link to your YouTube channel, so I'm going to post that when this comes out. It'll go on the show notes as well. I mean, you sound as though you're not there yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've found that through talking to lots of people, and most of the guys I've spoke to have been out a lot longer than you. And it's hit them later on. It's weird, and I've spoke about it in other podcasts. It hit me after 12 years. There was other things that brought it on for me, but it hit me after 12 years, and I've spoken to a lot of people, and it's hit them bad between 10 and 12 years after they've got out. And I don't know if there's any rhyme and reason to that. I don't think it's a sign. I don't think it's a scientific thing. It's probably just a coincidence, or the way people talk about it and stuff like that. But it gets them later on when they think they're all right.
Yeah.
And most guys don't know, that they've got an issue.
No.
I didn't. I really didn't know. Looking back at the things I was doing, when I turned into like a recluse and stuff like that, that's a sign, I suppose. But that the guys don't know they've got an issue. And
No, I talk about it all the time, mate. I'm very open about it. But like I said earlier, it's only the weekend there, this past weekend. I could feel it sort of Friday, started going into my own wee world. Saturday, exact same, then snap out of it when I'm out and about. And then I'm just sitting in it, you just, yeah, it can kick you in the arse at any time. And I'm in a much better place than what I was. You know, I don't drink nearly as much as what I was. I mean, I feel sorry for my wife because I went through like the most chilled out person you've ever met, mate. I was so laid back, didn't give a fuck about anything within reason, you know what I mean? Nothing really bothered me. To somebody who pretty much changed overnight to pretty stressed and just drift off into my own world, and she's had to sit and watch all this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And she's seen me go through that to now. Obviously, I'm in a good place. I'm in a better place than I've ever been. You know what I mean? Since then, but bizarrely, I read a letter the other day for the MOD saying that PTSD that I've suffered would be away within 2 years. Now, if only they seen me at the weekend or the day that I sat in that lesson, they'd have a different fucking idea of that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. I mean,
the best thing I can do with it, Frankie, is I talk a lot. I post a lot of stuff on Facebook and stuff like that. And the reason I do it, it's not so that people think, oh, fucking hell, Davie's doing this again. It's so that they know that there's somebody out there who's been through it, gone through it, and always there to lend a hand to people, mate. You know what I mean? I've helped a few people recently, put them in touch with people. But just letting people know that there is people who fucking struggle. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, massive. I got put on Up Courage. The guy came out, I was really quickly. It was really quick as well. It was within a couple of weeks. You know, the guy came out to my house and sat with me for a couple of hours, and then just basically said, "I can't deal with you. You know, you need to see someone else." Right, okay. You know, I mean, I was fine. You know, I was, there's that. It's that them two words or them words again. I'm fine. When you know, anyone who deals with this type of stuff and asks how someone is, and they go, "Yeah, I'm fine." You know, to most people, they're fine. The people who know, no, they're not, because that's what you always say. Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But I got put on with the East Durham Veterans Association and their counsellor, and fucking they're brilliant. You know, and if anyone's from the northeast area who's listening to this and needs help, and you don't think there's anyone local, get in touch with them.
Yeah,
because they are brilliant. You know, and there's organisations that are out there that are the big ones have kind of disappeared because the money's not there anymore. You know, we're not in people's we're not in the psyche of the general public anymore and stuff like that. You know, Afghans over, Iraq's over, and stuff like that. We're not in the papers, blah blah blah. And it's the way I look at it now is it's down to us, to help ourselves and help each other. But no one's going to come to you and just offer you help. You have to go and seek it. You have to ask for it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't ask for it, you don't talk to someone, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
I've spoken to a guy a couple of weeks back, and he's set up the Veterans Awards in Northern Ireland, and they've done it a different way. And I think there's something now being set up called We Served, and it's a similar type of thing. But the way they're looking at it this way is that it's not a charity, it's a company, and they're trying to bring in businesses into tap the big resources that are veterans and stuff like that. But it's a paid for service. It's like a couple of quid a month. But the way they look at it is that if you pay for something, you're going to use it because you paid for it, and you're going to ask for it. You know, you because you've paid a couple of quid, you want the resources that they can give you. And one of the resources that they can offer you is a gateway into the counselling, or if you've got an issue, they'll help that way. It's not just about business.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just like a networking thing, which is what it might seem from the outside. But again, I'll say it again. I'll keep saying it to everyone. You can't get help if you don't ask for it. No one's going to wave a magic wand and know that you've got an issue. You've got to talk.
Yeah.
And if you know yourself talking, it fucking helps, doesn't it? You know.
Absolutely. It's the easiest. It's not the easiest thing to do, but when you do it, you definitely lighten the load, mate. Definitely.
I mean, I spoke about things that I'd fucking totally forgot about, and that weren't even related to what I was going through at the time. You know, and it's just but I feel so much better afterwards. And like now we would, I'm in a really good place. That's not saying I'm going to be in this good place forever, but I know ways to combat it now. I
That's
was
the
going to
key
say
thing there. That's
that's what I was going to ask you then. So when you know you're going down, how would you snap out of it?
That weekend there with difficulty, but that's the first time it's been like that. Normally, what I'll do is I will just speak about it.
Yeah.
I don't really care what MD thinks about my mental health. It's my issue. Obviously, I don't mean that to be flippant, and I don't care what people think because
It's not flippant, mate. It's not flippant.
What I care about is speaking about it, getting it out there, and understanding that there's an issue. So what I do is I will post about it on a couple of my pages. I'll speak to my wife more than ever about it. I'll tell her I'm having fucking issues. But again, there's always that one time, and I use the weekend there as an example, where I couldn't do any of that. I just couldn't see sort of past. And then it was Sunday. I just, don't know, just snapped out of it. And then I went and spoke to my wife. And she's,
I mean, I've
see it.
sorry, go on.
No, that's fine.
The way I do it is, I've suddenly developed this weird thing where I think I've left the gas on, or I've left the door unlocked, or something like that, and it becomes that strong, the feeling, that I have to deal with it. I have to do something.
Yeah.
Like if I'm on the way to work, I have to turn around and come back and make sure. I know I haven't left the gas on. I know I haven't left the door open. But I have to act on it. And that was one of the things that was causing issues with me. And the way we worked it out is that it's your brain stopping you thinking about something else. So it makes you hyper focus on something that's totally, nothing to do with what could be, what's going to creep into your mind. Your mind knows something's going to happen in your brain, in your memory or whatever. The front is going to change the back and everything like that. So it makes me do things like that. It makes me think of almost like OCD. I'm not OCD. I don't think I am.
Yeah.
But now I've discovered that if I just breathe, look in the mirror and say, "Shut up, you fucking idiot! You haven't left the gas on." I can just, that's it, and that's how I deal with it. I tell myself off. You know what I mean? It's a strange. If anyone's watching me in a car on the way to work, they'll be thinking, "What the fuck's he doing?" Having a fucking full-blown conversation in the mirror. But it works for me. It's I can recognise the triggers coming in, and I can deal with it that way. And I've been lucky up to now that I've not gone past that. If you know what I mean, I've been able to control it and stuff and everything. So I think I'm quite lucky at the moment. But like you say, it helps that I've had the spoke to people and got that help.
Yeah.
Stop that anyone who out there's listening that thinks that there's nothing there. There's people there.
There's plenty out there, and if nothing else, like you say there, a really good way to deal with it is just fucking take a massive deep breath.
Yeah.
And just think about it. It's
just slow down.
Yeah.
Just slow down.
Slow down. Talk to somebody, and I can guarantee you, there's always somebody there for advice.
Yeah. Right, Davie, we've come up to about 1 hour and 50 there. I think we've hit the limit.
Yeah.
That was a longer one than I thought it was going to be. Again, thanks for coming on and sharing your story. And it's been a hell of a story, I must admit. And I've really enjoyed listening to it. And your early life, fucking hell, you little shit.
Listen, as a product of the environment, mate.
It is, and like I can't really relate to it that much because I never went through anything like that. I was trying to compare things while you were talking about stuff, and I wasn't brought up in that environment, so I could the school things because I was a shit at school. I really was. I never got expelled. I don't know. Yeah. I really don't know. But that was really how I could relate to.
But it shows is don't give up on people though. You know, if somebody has been a little shit, give them the time of day.
Yeah.
There'll always be something there where you can plug into somebody and say, right, can you do this? Can we change this? You know, and it just shows if I can be through what I've come from to doing quite well in life, I believe any fucker can do it.
Yeah, they can. I hope they can. And the other thing that leads to, I know I was just going to end this then, but that's just made me think of something else. So currently, you know, the army's struggling with recruiting and stuff like that, and obviously the army's a lot smaller than it was when I was in, and now it's smaller than probably when you were in. The people, I think they're trying to recruit the wrong people. They should be recruiting the people from your background.
Yeah.
You know, the guys, they're going to get the social mobility from it and stuff like this as well. But, you know, I've seen things mentioned about, you know, we're recruiting the wrong people. I mean, I don't know if we are or not. I'm not recruiting them. I'm not in the army anymore. I don't appreciate the way the training's gone. I say that quite flippantly. I'm not saying I don't appreciate the training. I don't appreciate how they're doing it. I don't understand. I'm not doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a different army to when I was in. You'd have seen it change, you know.
Yeah.
I've seen it change up to my point.
I think they've got to get a balance right. You do need your. I'm not going to classify myself as a lunatic here, but you do need the people who have got a couple of screws loose and manage them.
Well, I mean, in the end, you're training people to fucking go and kill people.
Yeah.
You know, you've got another army who's full of idiots as well.
There's a balance that's got to be made. And you need guys from my background, and you also need guys who are very clever. But equally, what I will go back to is guys who the background I come from now are probably a lot smarter than I am. IT, all that shit. So that's the people I think they need to be looking at. And something that I often thought about and never acted on it when I was in a cadet training team is why a cadet training team is no getting into children's homes and speaking to these kids, saying, right, look, there is another option for you.
Yeah.
You know, come and try the cadets, come and do this. It might not work, but I read something the other day about cadets are more likely to succeed if you've been in a cadet force.
I mean, the guys I've spoke to on the podcast, a lot of them, you know, were in the cadets.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people who join the military were in the cadets.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't just help them in, you know, join the military. It helps them in civics training.
Yeah.
I mean, I know one of my old neighbours' son was in the air cadets, and he ended up saving someone's life because of stuff he'd been taught. Like he'd been taught first aid, he'd been taught CPR, and somebody collapsed in front of him, an old lady, who was fucking having an heart attack. Or, you know, I think it was an heart attack, and he gave CPR because he'd learned it there and basically saved their life.
Yeah.
You know, and he was recognised for it. Luckily, you know, and rightly so. But it's not just, you know, a stepping stone to the military. They get taught life lessons.
Absolutely.
You know,
like I say, if somebody like grabbed me at a young age and said, "Do you want to come give us a go?" I might have been too far gone and said no, but it's always worth having the opportunity. But like I say, for me, you just don't give up on people. You try and help them and try and push them in the right direction. Like I said,
right, well, I am going to end it now because
no problem.
Right, again, thanks for coming on.
It's
your story, and it's been lovely. I'll stop the recording now. I hope you enjoyed that podcast. I enjoyed recording it. If you could just hit the like button, and also if you could subscribe and hit the notification bell, that would be great because it'll help the channel grow. The more people will see it, the bigger it'll get, and the more guests I can get on, and the more people I can talk to. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, like I said. Look forward to the next one. Hopefully we'll be out next week as normal. Bye-bye now.